Welcome back, everyone, to Thinking Like a Lender. Today, we're going to cover the topic of assets. So assets seem like a pretty straightforward portion of the loan application, but it's actually one that causes a lot of extra paperwork. It can cause a lot of frustration. And so we really want you to understand what it is and why assets are so important. So we know that an asset is your, checking, savings. Is it a 401k? Is it a PERS? We look at those assets differently. On a 401k, you may have the ability to take out a loan if you were in a pinch and needed money for a new hot water heater or something, where versus a PERS that you can't actually access those funds. So we are looking at the different types of assets, what's readily available, and do you have access to? We're looking to see, do you have enough money for the down payment and the closing costs? And in some cases, if you have really poor credit, but you meet all the other criterias and you're kind of on that edge of qualifying or not qualifying, it may require that you have reserves. So you maybe needed 3 months of house payments or 6 months of house payments left over after you have paid those other items before you can qualify. So one of the common things that can happen is you get everything sourced, the money's there, we're good to go. Somebody goes on vacation, they spend a little more than they wanted to, and those reserves are gone. That could turn your pre-approval into a decline at that point. So you really want to talk to your loan officer. Is your pre-approval contingent upon a certain amount of money being in a savings account? What's needed to go forward? The other part of the assets is sourcing the funds. So part of the guidelines is making sure that the money being used to purchase the house is not funds from money laundering, so forth. So when we look at your bank statement, we're looking for large non-payroll related deposits. And then we're going to ask for copies of those large deposits. If they happen to be cash, we can't really prove cash. So that might be you have $10,000 in your account, but $5,000 was cash. We can't count that $5,000. We're only going to look at you have $5,000 in your account. If that $5,000 happened to be a check from somebody, we're going to figure out why did that person give you $5,000? Was it a gift? A gift is perfectly fine, but there's definitely some documentation steps that we have to take, which is obtaining a gift letter, getting a copy of that donor's bank statement to make sure there's no odd deposits going there. And that's a really touchy spot where we get a lot of pushback. Unfortunately, if that guideline requires that bank statement, we're not moving forward without it. So something to talk about if you're going to have somebody gift you money. And we're going to need a copy of the check. So we're going to see that all that money is paper trailed together into your account. Now, if you sold something like a car, that's great and fine, but we are going to prove that you sold a car. So we're going to need a copy of a bill of sale. Your insurance stopped, the Kelley Blue Book value, what was it worth? Does the amount that you sold it for make sense? So it's okay to do some of these things, but it is going to create a little bit more documentation on your end. So one of the common things that we see is maybe you have a spouse who's on the loan, maybe not on the loan, and they have a bank statement that we haven't seen. And we keep seeing these deposits going into your account. Come to find out, it's money that your spouse or partner is taking out of the ATM, and then they give you money and you're putting cash back in. Now we need to see the bank statements from this account. We have to look at the dates that the funds were withdrawn, look at the date that they went into your account, see do those correlate, and do the dollar amounts match. So if I pulled out 300 and I put in 200, it's not the same. So why is that it doesn't match up? So one of the easy ways to get around that issue, you would still have to provide bank statements for your spouse if that's the case. And we are going to be looking in those statements to see if there's any large deposits. So I'm sure that you can start to see the trend of if I'm getting this statement, I see a large deposit, I get the next statement and there's a deposit, then we just keep going back. So it's very frustrating for people. But if they're writing a check, we're going to still see that deposit, but at least we can show it was a check to a check. It's easy. We're not doing letters of explanations and trying to connect more dots than are necessary. So that is one way that we see a lot of hiccups. The other one is when you move money around. So we have updated bank statements. Everything looks good when you qualify. When you find a house, we get to the end. We have to make one proof that you've got, the final money. So I don't need new bank statements over here. We just need this updated one. And now we see a lot of transfers coming from other accounts. Then we're getting updated bank statements from there. So assets can be one of the more frustrating parts because it's just a lot of documentation and we're spending money as we go about life. And in your world and my world, if I'm not looking out for a loan, I don't think anything about what my account looks like. When you get to the home loan process, it's a big deal. So if you are going to have some deposits come in, reach out to your loan officer. Make sure that there's no other documentation needed first. If your parents were going to gift you and they were giving you cash, make sure that that cash doesn't go in the account. You need to, I'm pretty sure it's clear there. No cash in your account. Also, if you're going to take out any new loans, check with your loan officer. Again, it should be pretty straightforward. Don't go and borrow money when you're trying to buy a house. But sometimes things happen and your car breaks down and you need to get a new car. Reach out, find out if that new payment is going to disqualify you, or do you only qualify for, this lower amount now. So I hope that you found this helpful. If you have questions or there's different scenarios, always reach out to your loan advisor or reach out to me. And thank you for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed it.